Hello, everyone. Welcome after the short break. Let me remind you that there is the main dash yellow channel where you can interact a little bit, discuss what is being said, and ask questions that can be asked after the talk in the Q&A session. Okay, so let me introduce the next speaker. I met Paweł when I started my agile journey. We co-created Agile Warsaw together. Back then, Paweł was the CEO of a very extreme programming software house. There were 6 developers, and actually they had four computers. So at any given moment, 4 people have been pairing, and it was forced. And I was really impressed by it, and actually still am impressed by this. And later, Paweł started a product startup without giving up on the software house. So he'll share insights on how those two words compare. Paweł, the stage is yours.
Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry for my voice. I caught cold over the weekend. So yes, indeed, when we met with Mateusz, the Pragmatist was a relatively young and small software house. It works a little different right now. But anyway, my name is P.Lipiński. I've been invited here, I guess, by Mateusz because I happen to have this, I guess, pretty rare experience. Because on one hand, I'm a CEO of Pragmatist, a software house, which for the last 12 years has been practicing and preaching agile software development, including the extreme programming techniques that Mateusz mentioned, like test-driven development and pair programming, pretty evangelically. On the other hand, I'm leading Talkie AI, which is a virtual voice assistant or a voice bot platform for automation of call center processes and conversations. So I'm trying to balance 2 very different worlds. On one hand, a service company that creates software, among others, for startups, and a software product company, which potentially could be buying those services. For the better part of my career, first as a software developer, because this is my original background, and then as an agile coach, and ultimately as a manager of a software company, I've been working directly with clients and teams building software products, kind of in the middle of them. On one hand, supporting and negotiating with the clients so that they understand our behaviors, our processes, and why we do things the way we want to do them. And on the other hand, working with the teams to kind of support them understanding the business perspective. But from the perspective of time, and especially the last 3 years managing and building Talkie AI, I see that to some extent my previous perspective before that experience has been pretty one-sided. And my idea for this talk is to help those of you who work on product teams, on software teams, doing their best to create best possible solution, to try to understand why building the right thing and building it right do not necessarily go hand in hand from the perspective of business. And working at a software house with software teams, it was my role oftentimes to explain exactly that, why businesses and business people tend to have this tendency of disturbing the natural flow of iterations or sprints and push throw-ins into a sprint backlog. Why is this happening? Is this because they're so dumb, or are there other reasons? So I need to tell you that managing a software house, or basically any typical software engineering team, from the perspective of a product, is pretty straightforward. Obviously, there are technical challenges, which obviously there might be very hard technical challenges, but ultimately, it's all about organizing the teamwork to deliver software that reflects some requirements, some specification, be it the kind of old school 200 pages spec, or a fancy Jira backlog, if Jira backlogs are fancy these days. So the main areas of interest are basically delivering features, maintainability, reliability of the software, and from your perspective, the business responsibility, business team's responsibility is to get somebody to use that product, to come up with new requirements, to get the budget to pay for your work for the product. So, but there is a different side to it, which I believe few software teams really understand, or few people on the software teams really understand what's really going on there. And this is the world, and they treat it like a black box. And this is the world of the client relationships, investors and investor relationships, the world of reporting, sales, marketing, scaling, building the organization. So everything that's basically related to building a company. And my perspective, because my perspective is in the startup world, so a lot of what I'm saying is certainly related to this. So from the perspective of software, the elements that I was talking about are basically the means for the company to be able to operate. From the perspective of the business, the software teams are only engineering organization. Their responsibility is to build what we tell them to build, and to be able to build it sustainably. So the responsibility on the side of the software teams is for how to build things, and on the business side is what to build. So responsibility for scope and priorities. So I would like to kind of show you and give you a glimpse into a life of an early stage startup, which Talkie is at this point. Even though we've been doing this for 3 years, we're pretty early, both in terms of sales, in terms of investment processes, also to some extent in terms of product, because there's so much more that we have on our roadmap. And we experience those situations, so I can understand very well how expectations of our sales team, of our general business side of the team, and the expectations of the software delivery team need to be aligned. So a glimpse into an early stage product development. So I would like to show you and describe what I see as 3 forces that act upon the management team, and these forces result in those disruptions and changes that software teams later kind of perceive and oftentimes don't understand. So the first force is the actual product, or a product roadmap. When you're starting to build a startup, starting to build a product, and it doesn't need to be startup. Sometimes it is the way that also enterprises start building innovative or more risky products. You don't have many clients yet, if you have any, but you need to build something, so you're making assumptions. So the whole product roadmap is basically a set of assumptions and not something carved in stone. So basically, with every single conversation that you have with your clients, with potential users, you're learning. So and in order to be able to sustain on the business side, you really need to find what is called the product market fit. And this is like your #1 responsibility as a management team, to be able to really well understand what it is that your market needs, and what is the product that you're supposed to be building, what you're building, that the market will be willing to pay for. So the product management team and the business teams, they're trying to plan product roadmap, but the actual ideas and directions will be changing, especially in the early stages, or changing pretty dynamically, because you're learning from those conversations with your clients and potential users, and your understanding of the market. So at that point, the business teams, they expect software teams to be able to adapt and welcome those changes. They expect software teams to respond to the need of the market with what's being built. So, but on what we've seen in the past, also at pragmatists building those products, oftentimes software developers perceive this as indecisiveness or a lack of commitment on the product management side to the product roadmap. They see, okay, this is a product roadmap, we've planned it, and now we're getting those throw-ins, right? So this is one force. We are meeting as business teams. We are meeting people, market response all the time. So we need to be able to influence the way the product is being built. And talking about the product, what might be important is that this is one of the most frequent misconceptions that developers turned entrepreneurs make, that they think that product is everything, that building a great product, the shiny piece of code with nice UI with round edges will make clients really fight together. That's not the reality, or it's not the reality in most of the cases, especially in the enterprise world that my businesses live in. So the reality is that the world doesn't need our products. Most of the world is just working fine without those products in place yet. So it's our responsibility to really sell this idea, to show to the potential buyers that, whatever we're building might improve their lives, make them easier, just enough for them to want to pay for the difference. So we need to be able to address that need very well. And this is the product market fit that I was talking about. And then how do we measure it? We obviously measure it by selling. So the sales process works like this. You've started talking to clients, you're trying to make them happy, and then they want customizations. So they come with their throw-ins with customizations, and they disturb your roadmap. So this is, again, something that as an early product is extremely important, that we are responding to those needs, because otherwise, if we don't sell, if there's nothing to sell, we won't be able to maintain the organization. And the third force is financing. Because for many startups, we are on the path of getting one round and another round and another round of financing just to be able to build this product and find this product market fit and start successfully selling. So from that perspective, we also have tons of different forces related to fundraising, expectations, KPIs that we are getting from the financial plans from our investors. So the rounds, especially in our region, are way too small for building, especially the early rounds are way too small to build extensive products, compelling products. So we cannot afford having a separate support team, a separate customer success team, and so on and so forth. We need the software developers to at least initially be able to do those duties. So building an early stage product is a fight against time, fight for revenues, fight for the capital for growth, a pressure competition. It's continuous fitting to the market and what's going on there. So instead of plans, we've got fast changes. Instead of perfectionism, we've got quite a bit of hacking our way out. We have more individual collaboration than the actual process in developing. And finally, we need to go to clients and do kind of show and tell approach. And because the clients at this point don't really care about our fancy presentation, they want to see a working product in action. But wait, that sounds to me like the Agile Manifesto itself, right? So now what I see is that we as the Agile movement, we have gone from being dynamic and responding to changes and adapting to a place that we like working for enterprises oftentimes, that we like to have this process and to follow process. And a lot of developers say, why is somebody throwing something into my sprint, into my backlog? This is my process. This is my safe place. So from my perspective, managing an early stage startup, what I see is that classical agile methods like Scrum with 4-week iterations and a Scrum Master to defend the team from the business. This is just so outdated. You cannot manage a product if you have such a rigid organization. So what is needed to get rid of this frustration is the right alignment of goals and expectations, transparent communication between software development teams and the management teams. to be able to align and understand each other's forces deeper. I think the point of those frustrations is we don't really understand each other's forces well. So I want to encourage you to spend time, and especially people on the business side, because you don't really have time oftentimes to explain those things to your software teams. To spend time and give that transparency and understanding of the forces that act upon you to your team, so that they can understand where are you coming from and what they can do to support your business, to help you prioritize and take decisions that they would find aligned with how they want to work. This is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paweł, for an awesome talk. Now is the time for you guys to ask the questions. And while waiting for questions from you, I have one of my own, although I'm not that happy about this because you started answering it with your summary. So I will modify a little bit. I wanted to ask you how you fight this perception that the management is not committed to the roadmap. And so I will modify it. How do you specifically do it in Toki? How do you ensure this transparency? How do you,
Yeah, so I think it's very important to have a very direct communication in terms of where we are and why are we making some decisions. In our case, Ada, who is my co-founder and head of product at Toki, she does a very good job at working directly with the development teams and explaining the perspective, explaining what's going on the sales side and explaining what's going on with the expectations of the business, how we need to grow in order to satisfy those KPIs and the expectations for growth that we're setting for ourselves, but also that our investors are expecting from us. So we also have regular meetings where we have a sync up of the sales, marketing, and the kind of the business growth activities with the software development activities to kind of show how the roadmap, the development of the product roadmap aligns with our business goals. But obviously, this is a challenge. This is a challenge. You need to make sure that this is happening on a very regular and frequent basis.
Okay. In the meantime, we got a follow-up question. How do you scale this transparency?
Yeah, I think this is the best question ever, because
thank you, Hassan.
Yeah, it's hard. So we're currently at 23 people, so it's hard to say that we're really scaling it. We will see. I strongly believe there need to be two things. One is a clear and transparent communication of company goals, both in terms of values, but also in terms of very tangible roadmap and how we want to shape this product longer term than just the upcoming weeks and upcoming features, which is very often the perspective that that developers have. But also to have this, right, once you're scaling organization, you will have more product managers. So you will obviously need to kind of cascade this information, but still make sure that it is going down properly, and also it's going up. So the perspective of software developers, it needs to be involved in what the management, what the business teams are doing. And I think from my perspective, what I have seen on many projects, also the ones that we were or are involved in at Pragmatus, is that there is not sufficient involvement or even understanding on the business side of things that the developers can really bring value in this decision-making process, and that their perspective in terms of how they develop the product might be extremely valuable. And then they also become kind of agents within their teams. So involvement of development people responsible day-to-day for development activities or software teams, they should be involved deeper in the actual, probably also product roadmap building, but also activities in terms of sales, and these things that I was talking about during the talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful answer. Yeah, the time is up. So thank you very much, Paweł. Let me now upload you.
Thank you so much.
So remember, you can talk with Paweł about the talk in the chat room for this talk, and please don't forget to feedback the talk.